your level of support pre-sale should be the same or better as your level of support post-sale. And
Yeah.
not a lot of companies do that.
This is the Built Happily podcast, where we dive into building apps, companies, and relationships in the HubSpot ecosystem.
As HubSpot grows, so does the opportunity, and we put you in the room with the people making it all happen.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's Built Happily. We talk about the world of HubSpot, building things, building apps, building careers, building companies, building relationships. And we have our man, Chris Barnett, another Texas native.
That's right.
Ooh,
That's right.
yes.
Hey, we're out here, big one. So we wanted to talk to you because you're a special person, really close Happily partner, doing some big things, got a lot of things planned up. How you feeling today, man?
Good. I'm excited to be here.
Chris, you and me go back quite some time to my days of solutions engineering, I believe it was. Or maybe, was I a trainer at that point? I can't remember when we first started like hanging out and talking on LinkedIn.
I think it might have been when you were still solutions engineering. Yeah, that was such a long time ago. Man.
Yeah. It was a while back. But, we've been hanging out before I came over here to Happily. I know you have an awesome story. I had a lot of fun when you were kind of telling it to me the first time and I was getting to know you. And I knew that when me and Dax were thinking about starting this podcast, that you would be one that we wanted to make sure we shared, right?
You gotta get the savior involved.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot that a lot of people can, learn from kind of what you went through, especially folks that are looking to build a successful HubSpot partner business in 2024. But yes, just so we can kind of like dive into a little bit, Dax, we started talking a little while ago on, we wanted to do a podcast for Happily, right? I think originally we were just like, hey, we're building really cool apps on HubSpot. We want to talk to other people that are building really cool apps, right? But kind of like how you said at the beginning, what we quickly realized is that people are building a lot more than just cool apps on HubSpot, right? They're building really great careers. They're building really cool communities. They're building stuff they're really proud of that isn't necessarily an app on the app marketplace, right? And I think we've got a really great opportunity here to be, what did I call it? The spiritual center of Hublandia, if you will, of the HubSpot universe, and really create a platform and a space for folks that we know are building some really cool stuff to come in here and brag about it. Share that with us, tell people that story. So one, they can let the world know what they're working on, but two, other folks in the HubSpot community can really soak up all that knowledge and use it to kind of build their next cool thing, right? But yeah, man, anything else you want to kind of add in terms of like your vision for this project or,
people are doing too much dope stuff. We're hiding behind a couple screens. Our heads are down all day, going bananas like this. Room's on fire. Dog thinks everything's cool. That's us. But we want to talk about how we got here, because this universe within this universe within this universe is only a couple people. Be real. Like, you
for sure.
A few other folks in reality compared to what's happening in this lifetime. So we wanted to say enough about what we're doing. Mr. Barnett, tell me about workflow. Why the queue?
Yeah.
They're okay. Why the queue?
Yeah. Good question. Yeah. So I wanted something that was going to be scalable enough to be a one-man shop, which is how I began, all the way up until, multi-million-dollar company. And so I knew that I wanted to piggyback off of the HubSpot umbrella, if you will, and the cloud that HubSpot had. And so the word workflow gets tossed around in many solutions partners day-to-days with their customers, with their internal teams, stuff like that. And so to avoid getting sued by HubSpot, I was like, let's change the K to a Q instead, and we'll roll with that. And luckily it stuck, and then here we are.
There you go, man. Now,
how many people are over at Workflow? Tell me about like what's it like today right now? You got a HubSpot partner. What tier are you? What are you doing? How many people you got?
Yeah. So we are a team of about 15 right now, which is huge leaps and strides from where we were, a year and a half ago. We are just scratching the surface of Elite. My guess is by the time that this comes out, we will be the next Elite partner, which is insane. It's been a wild ride to make that happen. And it's been the whole reason that I started this was I wanted to be one of the best. And so I think we are well on our way to getting there. And so it's been
exciting. That's not a wild ride. That's a fast ride, my dude. And we gotta talk about that part too. So okay, before we kind of like, because we want to get into the story here, But, something that like in terms of like thinking about how the business is doing like today, what are some of the like harder parts or even some of the parts that you enjoy? Maybe you could give us a little both sides of the coin of being a HubSpot solutions partner in 2024. What do people need to know about the good and the bad?
Yeah. So the good that we are experiencing now is we are working on some cool stuff with our customers. I mean, our use cases for what we're solving for is becoming a lot more advanced. And for many of our, internal team members, that is what really drives them in terms of what they're passionate about with HubSpot is finding creative solutions to complex problems and using HubSpot as that, boat to get there, if you will. As far as the, trickier side of it, I think it's the partner ecosystem is evolving and the product is evolving a lot as well. And so the solutions aren't always as turnkey as what we think they are because HubSpot's product roadmap is so aggressive, which is a great problem to have. I mean, it's the fact that HubSpot is so willing to listen to their customers and willing to change their product based on that feedback means that there's not just one way to solve for our customers. There's usually 2, 3, 4, sometimes more, depending upon what functionality is on the horizon. So yeah, the good and the bad is, how do we solve for the customers in the most creative way possible?
Well,
Love that.
here's the $1 million question is, why not Sugar CRM? Why not Zoho? I've heard of this Salesforce thing. It's pretty hot. Why HubSpot? Why the orange?
Because I think HubSpot is the most scalable. So I'm a big person that is a believe and a big roadmap person is kind of what I'm after. So when I started this, I wanted to know where I was going to end up at the end. And so for me, in every decision that I make in my personal and professional life, I want to know the probabilities of success towards getting towards that end state. And for me, HubSpot is designed around scaling a business to where you want to get to. And so it's not a matter of just patching the holes in the boat if it's sinking. It's how do we guide the ship to the North Star of where we want to get to. And for me, HubSpot is the solution for that for truly every business out there.
Nice. So I want to go. Let's go. We talked a little bit about where you're at today, which is obviously very successful HubSpot solutions partner, right? I want to go to the way, way, way back, like the very, very beginning.
Yeah.
Like what was like, talk to me about what was going through your head, and I'm thinking about the person listening to this that's like, hasn't started yet, right? That's thinking about it. Maybe they're on the fence. They've, interacted with HubSpot in some way and they're in the mindset of like, I think I want to do this solutions partner thing, or I think I want to get into consulting. Like, I know I like HubSpot and I have some ideas around it and I'm smart about it. I want to go do this for other people. Like, talk to me about the moments leading up to you deciding like, hey, I want to do this HubSpot consulting thing, right? Like maybe, I don't know if this is like before you got on Upwork or you were already on Upwork. I know it's part of the story we're going to kind of get into a little bit. Yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah. So tell me about the moments leading up to like, what made you go, yeah, this is what I want to do? Was it a slow burn? Was it a singular moment? Like, how'd that come to be?
For me, it was a singular moment, but because I wanted to dive in head first because I believed in my own ability to create something. And I knew that I had the drive to be able to, become an expert and become one of the best in the ecosystem because that was what I was passionate about, right? I wanted to get back to that end state. I wanted to figure out how do I go in the trenches and like get my hands dirty and, build something. And so that was what was really attractive to me. The kind of tipping point with that was when I realized there was a partner program that was designed around helping existing and new HubSpot customers be successful with HubSpot. Like I was managing a pretty large HubSpot account before I was freelancing and we didn't have a partner. And so like it was all on me to optimize the account and it was, my sole responsibility.
So you came from customer land. Mm-hmm. You were a HubSpot customer, right? And so gotcha. Now tell us how you got into the gig economy piece of it that you used to kind of to build your way up, right? Because I remember you were telling me you were one of the higher performing, HubSpot consultants on Upwork, which was your platform of choice. Where did you go from like, did you like immediately go, I'm going to go do this on Upwork, or like, I'm going to go try to become a HubSpot, consultant. Yeah. And then you happen to find traction on Upwork. Like, where did that come into play? How did you get on there? Yeah. And like, what advice do you have for people like taking a similar route?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So Upwork was not like skyrocket to the top. It was a hustle to make that happen, and it took a long
Oh,
time. It took a while.
anybody ever done that before trying to do something
Yeah,
to get your brand?
so it
Now,
was
come on
a
now. Love to hear it.
yeah, and it was I tried and I failed and I quit like 2 or 3 times before it really worked out for me. And so the basic backstory was, I was playing soccer, I was playing at a professional level, and then I retired and went into the business side of the sport, right? And so, yeah.
Got doing over here
Wait,
picking
what?
balls and whatnot.
Wait, what? You were playing professional soccer?
Yeah, I don't know. You talk about this.
Wait, I think I knew you played soccer. I didn't know
Like
you were playing
basement league,
professional
or what
soccer.
pro league?
Actual drop.
They sell those at the store. Like that doesn't mean you are a pro.
No, I played semi-professionally at a couple of different levels in the U.S. for a couple of different teams in the Texas area, and I retired and went into the business side of the club that I, kind of grew up with, and so that was where I managed my first HubSpot account for,
Wow.
a sports organization, right? And so it was my job to basically figure out my initial task for my technical director was, this platform's a lot of money. Why are we paying for this? What does it do? And so then it was my job to go and figure out, what is this thing? How is it benefiting the business? And that was kind of my introduction to solutions architecture at that stage, where it was, I don't know what this is doing. What purpose does it serve for the business? And how do I justify the spend of the software in relation to what it's doing to the business? And so that was my introduction to HubSpot. From there,
yeah. I just want to say there's something like so inherently beautiful about that whole story, that like you grew up around this team doing this thing that you loved, and you were doing, you were playing soccer, and then you found a different way that you could kind of keep contributing to this like organization and stay a part of it at a different angle. And from that continued love of like your club and what you guys were doing, it's almost like you accidentally kind of stumbled into this like next really cool sort of like beautiful arc of your career that you're kind of going on now, that's sprouting into something completely different. Yet there's this like really awesome sort of like story that kind of binds it all together. I just want to appreciate that for a second. I think that's really neat. I didn't know that that's how the connection in the beginning of HubSpot happened. That's really neat.
Yeah, it was wild. And so I quickly realized the power of what this was doing for the business.
Yeah.
Through the HubSpot Academy resources, through the HubSpot community pages. I mean, this was back in 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. And so, I mean, think about how much the product has changed since then. And even the community, it's night and day.
Yeah.
So even back then, I realized the value of what this platform could do, and knew that if I wanted to make a career transition out of professional sports into something else, and just to have a pathway for me, I needed to latch on to something that had longevity to it. And I chose HubSpot to do that. So then my next, I guess, jump was to a nonprofit oil and gas association in Houston, where I managed a much larger version of HubSpot.
Nonprofit oil and gas.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was like pretty fun to like pretty boring. And so it was interesting because I noticed that the content for me didn't matter so much as the strategy behind the HubSpot build. That was what was stimulating for me. And because I was able to find, creative solutions to problems with sales teams and problems with marketing campaigns and how to automate certain functions. And so that was my next step in the pathway. And that was where I started to lean into, how can I solve for other customers through like the HubSpot community pages, where I saw that there were forums where people were posting, I'm having this problem, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, cool, let me just spin up my own account and see if I can solve this for you, And so that was cool because I was able to help other people through, my own previous experience at that time.
So was that the first kind of foray into like helping other people? Like you started on the community forum. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
man, shout out to the community forums. Those are, I happily started on the community forum as Alchemist, just being like, oh, you can't duplicate stuff? Oh, I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Build it out for it.
The amount of career pathways. And I'd be very curious to know how many partners began their HubSpot pathway from the community pages. How many build businesses in the community? I bet you it's an unbelievable amount. I mean, that's how Workflow was born.
Yeah. So for people that are like kind of saying like, hey, how am I going to start to make a name for myself, right? Like in terms of being seen as like a HubSpot expert or a consultant, or, someone in the community who's willing to help. Do you think like starting there is probably some of the best low hanging fruit that someone could kind of go after?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
A, it's
Yeah.
free. B,
Yep.
you're exposed to problems across all hubs, all industries. I mean, different levels of complexity as well, where you're either introduced to new problems that you would never experience in like a static environment, or
Hmm.
you're just introduced to new hubs that you may not currently work with, or have to
Yeah.
bring solutions. And so it gets you pushed out of your comfort zone, which is really what I saw as the value in the community. And even when I was freelancing is, I was taking on as much work as I possibly could. And it was not,
Yeah.
I wasn't choosing to just do marketing. I wasn't choosing just to do sales. I was doing it all because I wanted to. And so,
Yeah.
community is top class. I mean, brilliant.
And yeah, so you went from community, and is that when you started doing like expanding out to like Upwork a little bit? And then tell me that jump.
Question. So
I want to hear the $5 workflow extension that you made off Upwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So COVID hit March 2020, right?
Heard about that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's, small thing. I started working remotely and found that I was able to automate every function of my job through HubSpot at that time. And so
Scary.
I played Xbox for like 2 weeks at home and just let like the workflows run on their own. And I was like, this is not sustainable. I got to find something. So I looked on freelance platforms and I was like, I'm going to start doing contract stuff. And so I made a profile for myself. I tagged myself with like a $50 an hour type of hourly rate. And I was bidding on every possible job that I could. And I got 0 customers out of it. So then, 2 months go by and I was like, I'm not going to, this is a waste of time. I can't do it. 30 days later, kind of went back after it. And I was like, I'm probably doing this the wrong way. And so I found that I'm going to bring my rate down to like $10 an hour and just,
there it is.
and just beg people to like, to hire me for whatever job.
Yeah, exactly. Tip number 1 from this podcast.
Yeah. So
work for $5 an hour and or free and get your hands dirty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
We'll build workflows for DoorDash.
Yeah. So a loss leader is kind of what it was. And so it was
a candy bar at the aisle.
Yeah, because what was more valuable from what I found at that point in time was the reviews that you had on your profile basically drove the attraction for others that wanted to work with you. And so if I was able to provide awesome service really, really cheap and just beg for reviews afterward, it made it a lot easier for me to bid on other jobs at hourly rates. And then it snowballs. Then I get more expensive, I get more reviews. And then from there, within 6 months, I was one of the top HubSpot experts on the freelance market in the United States. I mean, it was so quick after that.
What's the competition like, on there for HubSpot talent?
It's
clearly Chris.
Yeah.
The next Chris is on there.
Yeah,
no.
Well, you probably graduated off of Upwork since then, right? Which is what we want to get into.
Right? Yeah. So I don't source any business from Upwork anymore. It's more of like a fun memento to hold on to use as like validation for some previous customer experience. But yeah, it was very competitive because there's a lot of partners that do source business from Upwork. I mean, tons of them actually. And so it's competitive in the standpoint of they will bid on everything and then they tell the lead that they're an agency and then the lead gets turned off. For me, I was bidding as a freelancer, not as a business. And so they were going to work with a person that was, selling for them potentially. And so it was great. Like I cut my teeth. I learned how to sell. I learned how to, interview and, create a brand for me as a freelancer. And then, I did that for 9 months. And then I was, just bringing in, crazy amount of contracts on a weekly basis. Like people were dying to work with me at that point because I had built the profile the right way to get it to where it needed to be in order for me to build something.
And so I want to move on to the transition, into being a HubSpot partner separate of Upwork, but someone just starting out today, gun to your head, they got to choose one route, right? You're grinding on the HubSpot ideas forums, or you're kind of getting out there with Upwork. Which kind of, eggs or which basket are you recommending that person lay their eggs in?
Community, for sure.
Some way to say it. Community. Okay, cool. Got it. Yeah. I think that makes sense too. Yeah. And like, what's cool about that is like, it's interesting. It's like HubSpot Academy is like, hey, here's all this free knowledge to be able to help all these people out and like answer all these questions. Here's all these certifications you can take. Here's everything you need to know. Here's this wonderful community of people that you can help out. And then it's almost like, here's this proving grounds that you can then use for free, which, by the way, when you go in there and be as our friend George Thomas would put it, a happy, helpful, humble human, right? And go and help people, that community like does a pretty good job at like lifting you up and celebrating that, right? Like, look at what they did at Inbound, what Christina Garnett did at Inbound with the wall of, the wall of fame for like the HubSpot community and Hub fans and like all the stuff that they're doing to like really lift up all those people that are going and like spending their time like helping others and everything. It's just, talk about breaking into tech. It's like, break into HubSpot. There are infinite opportunities for you to do that. And this community, it's only getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And a customer base, it's only getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The amount of opportunity that's just sitting in front of people to kind of break into this space is honestly like growing at like this wild rate. You know what I mean? And it's like, you got these avenues to get into it, right? Which I think is cool. I don't know if you guys want to like harp on that for a minute, but then we can talk about
So you talked about Upwork. Like, I've definitely graduated on from Upwork. I still am on the community today very actively. And so it proves that the community will scale with you no matter how big you are. You could be the biggest elite partner in the entire ecosystem and the community will still be valuable to you at that stage, for sure.
Yeah. Dax, you as an app builder, right? What sort of like value is community like bringing you guys? And like, if I'm a young, developer out there thinking of like building my first app on HubSpot, right? I mean, you and Tyrone cut your teeth on that thing too as well. Like what sort of thoughts on like using those community forums through the lens of being someone who's building apps on HubSpot versus like providing services? Like, what should they be doing on there?
Dude, you should be paying attention. It's the same thing. People are so vocal about their challenges and things that need to happen with or without HubSpot, and actually just literally paying attention will give you, to this day, still a powerful driver of app installs. To this day, still a powerful ideas. I don't do everything. I don't have every type of person using my apps. I don't even know most of the thousands of people that use them, but they're in the forums trying to get things solved. And those concepts and ideas that people share, if it sounds like it's a big issue, it's a big challenge, and HubSpot's really not trying to solve for it. Again, HubSpot being a great platform and understanding that there are things that need to be added to that platform because it's a platform, you build on top of it. That's where everything came from day one of Alchemist to today. There's still ideas that are ready to be built by somebody. And I only got 2 thumbs. So everybody has the opportunity to jump in there and kind of build, provide services, provide, just helping humans. That's what's going to happen. You be helpful, humble servant, you're going to make things happen. So that I just can't stress enough just to go in there and see what people are talking about.
Go find the opportunity. You know what I mean? It's like, not only is there those opportunities that you could go position yourself as a thought leader for someone who's like interested in doing services, but heck, man, if you're like a young developer and you're like, building stuff on HubSpot seems like a pretty neat thing to do, you can literally go into like the community and see the features people are requesting that HubSpot is very clearly indicating whether they are or are not working on it, right? And it's like, all the ideas that you need are right there. And what's also super interesting too is like, you're seeing the true end of the road in terms of like the research that people do, figuring out if something is possible in HubSpot or not, right? Because you've got every single expert on there, like you and Chris and any frustrated users and people that think they know HubSpot like the back of their hand, going and like trying to figure out a solution to every single problem. And then some of those problems just don't have solutions, right? And it's like the amount of inspiration you could find on there and the potential for stuff that you could build as someone who wants to build apps on HubSpot. Because again, I know we want to be encouraging other people to do this too. Right? Yeah. It's all in there. It's a treasure trove for sure.
It's early days still. People are going to look back and like, remember when Chris will be like, yo, remember when I was just elite? Now I'm like super platinum, golden, double bronze-esque moon plutonium level that they have now. Like, remember back in the day they had elite? Like, those are the time. That stuff wasn't a thing that recently. So understanding where we're at right now in this ecosystem, apps are just becoming like kind of a staple for actually solving challenges rather than just being like, I can't do it. There's a lot, man. And speaking of that opportunity, you did this very quickly. I know I talk about Alchemist, and our story was, we weren't around. You talked about 2016. I had no idea what HubSpot was in 2016. Not even a clue. So, I probably have seen it somewhere randomly, but in reality, going to elite that fast is that's not a coin flip. What was you don't got to give the trade secrets, but what are the trade secrets?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is the beauty to, I think, building a following before you build a business is, you know, good people know other good people and will tend to, stay in touch with you no matter where you go. Hence why, like, Max, when you were at HubSpot, like we kept in touch. I mean, Dax and I've known each other for
Yeah.
a while now, and so good people will follow good people. What I found was, like, I became a HubSpot partner in July of 2021, and so
Mm.
yeah, July 2021, May 2022, we hit diamond, which was a crazy like lift. I mean, it was insane. But what we found was the managed credit aspect of that tier partnership was easy for me because I already had all of it from my freelancing gigs. I already had access to all these portals. So literally just like me flipping to the workflow.co domain, and then we get all the managed credit. So all I had to do from there was sell HubSpot, which, and again, people can take this with a grain of salt. It's not that hard if you sell it the right way. I mean, HubSpot can
Mm.
pretty much sell itself in terms of the value that it can provide to a business. And so I leaned more into the partner resources, where this is where the community was able to really be the catalyst for me getting to those next tiers. Because as I was solving for customer use cases in the community, I was getting DMs, I was getting private messages from people saying like, "Hey, like, can you do a re-architecture of my account, or like audit this, audit that?" And then I was just going into cross-selling and upselling mode, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, it was just building relationships. It was building relationships with the existing CSMs. It was building relationships
Mhm.
with growth specialist teams, building relationships with other app partners. And from there, that yielded success. I think I echo the fact that I partnered with really good people to get me to where
Yeah.
I am. And that's really the reason why I'm here.
Yeah,
Can
everybody's
we?
people, man. That's the main thing. I mean, I know, even shout out to the Grow Happily Partner Program. We definitely met. I know I've thrown some stuff over the fence, and I'm comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
Since it is about, everything is about the people, and people want to buy and work with, because you become a member of the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As an agency, from my back in the day consulting, it's, you're either a part of the team or you're like a vendor, and you don't want
Yeah.
to you don't want to be a vendor.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I want you to dig into, Crystal, that I thought was interesting is, I think maybe you didn't say it this way, but you said like selling's not that difficult, right? Like when it, or said something else. You mentioned selling was important, right? Because I think that, what is it? It's like sold MRR and managed MRR or
Yeah.
something like that, right? So it's like net new MRR you're bringing to the table, and then how much MRR you're managing is in like you're doing work for an existing customer, right? What is that like? How do you approach that sales side of like the new MR? And what I'm asking here is like, do you find yourself or your team playing the role of like the HubSpot software AE, right? And actually selling the software and the services together, versus how much do you put that on your AE that you're working with at HubSpot to actually do the selling of the software? Or are you talking to customers that are like net new to you and having the conversation around what they need, so when they get to the AE or your CAM or whoever, I don't know exactly how, like,
Yeah.
who you talk to purchase
Yeah.
stuff, that it's just like, hey man, we already talked about it, this is exactly what they need, just go ahead and put the contract together and like make it happen. Like, how are you guys like approaching that piece? And I know a lot of people do it differently, right? So I'd like to hear your unique take on it.
Yeah. So a key thing, especially if you're a new partner listening to this, is focus on solution selling. And so the way that we sell HubSpot and other software, like even like Happily products included, like when I demo Zebra, this is the exact way that I do it, is we show how the software is a solution for the pain points of the lead. And so it's
Yeah.
not demoing all possible functionality that, the platform can do. It's great to show that, but if certain functions are not applicable towards that lead's need, they don't really need to see it. And so really it's just
Yeah.
improving yourself as a partner who can find a solution via these avenues to help solve for that customer. And that's really what HubSpot's, mantra is, solve for the customer, grow better together, things like that. And so we kind of run our sales independently outside of the AE, which kind of makes it easy for the growth specialist, because we'll manage the sales process, because it's a lot more valuable for the solutions implementer, right?
Mm-hmm.
That knows what they're going to do with the actual purchase to show you how it's going to look, versus someone that sells it that's not going to implement it.
Yeah.
100%. You're not buying the drill, you're buying the hole in the wall. And you're not buying the hole in the wall, you're buying whatever you're sticking in and trying to hang up. That's the thing. And you're not buying that. You're really trying to make your partner smile because you did something that they told you to do.
Yeah.
That whole thing. Yeah. When people talk about, I mean, same thing with the apps. It's not, you don't want this particular app. You don't just want Zebra. You're trying to get Stripe data into HubSpot from multiple Stripe accounts and send out quotes depending on, you're trying to do all this stuff, right? So I definitely, when I think about when agencies and, hey, I'm the bowling alley down the street, or I'm Meow Wolf, right? Shout out to Meow Wolf. I use HubSpot. Why did I pick it? It wasn't trying to have HubSpot. I was trying to do this and manage this and run this and report on this, automate this. And that's what you're trying to solve for. And that's why all these people are using HubSpot and it's going up and to the right like crazy, because there's educated partners like yourself that are saying, hey, you have this problem and you have a spreadsheet that is tacked to the board, and when the fan blows, it goes under the door, is gone. Like, that's not how you could do it. It can be so much better. It can be cloud-based. You can do this. Like, open your eyes. This is the world that you can live in.
Yeah. Chris, what was it like to I mean, I'm making kind of an assumption here. I assume at some point, when you were building your team, there was still, some reliance on HubSpot AE to be selling the product. But like, what was it like? What did it take to transition your team into a place where your team is taking on the burden of showing product, obviously through the lens of solution selling, and getting to a place where you're like, we no longer rely on HubSpot AE to come in and demo software, right? Like, what did you have to do in terms of like team enablement or like changing up your methodology, or like whatever it was, to get you to a place where it's like, we're confidently solution selling on our own and we don't need no AE to like show someone the tool, right? Yeah. What did it take to get there?
Yeah, so it's a lot of upskilling. It's a lot of knowledge sharing internally, and so we have bi-weekly dev blocks is what we call them, and so it's how we can design for a specific use case for either a deal that we have in the pipeline or a current customer in our portfolio. And so what we found was this was the real introduction to a team of solutions architects. It's those that know how to find the creative solutions and sell them to that lead at the same time. Because what we found kind of developing this skill set is usually you either have the ability to sell or you have the ability to design and not And for those that can do both, that is an extremely sought after skill set, especially in this ecosystem. If you can sell and you can design HubSpot, you can run an entire solutions architecture team, solo with that level of talent.
Got it. It sounds like a lot of internal upskilling, and it more so sounds like when you say the dev block thing, what it sounds like is you guys are like building traditions around learning that are internal and making it a part of the daily routine, right? And getting people. Do you have like dedicated like sellers, or is it like people who are directly working with the customers are the same folks that are like doing this type of solution selling stuff?
Yeah. So key difference between us and a lot of other partners is there's no transition between who is selling to you and who is actually onboarding or doing your configuration.
That's rad. That's really cool.
Love that.
What we found was handoff sucks. Handoff immediately creates friction. People hate being handed off. I mean, I did a LinkedIn post about this last week. Your level of support pre-sale should be the same or better as your level of support post-sale. And not a lot of companies do that. It's very rare to see that, because you can access a sales rep in less than 10 seconds before you purchase. But afterward, accessing someone typically is not the same level of quality. I recognized that very early on, because what they found was I got burned by an agency. I got burned by this freelancer. Like, they oversold me, and now I'm stuck with all this software. I don't know what to do with it. And so think about the entire customer journey, right? If you're working with someone from the beginning and that person understands the use case, why wouldn't that person be doing that actual development after that purchase is made? It just
true. It's hard to translate it. But that's always the big thing that made me kind of like a little scared being a solutions engineer, where like I'd find myself in these long sales cycles with folks, and I would have a great idea of what they need to do to actually implement this. And I would lay out this like vision and say, these are the custom objects you're going to use, and this is the strategy you're going to put behind it, and here's the apps that you're going to want to download, and here's the workflow you're going to create. And it's like, perfect. It's going to be dope. It's awesome. You'll name all these properties this. And then oftentimes I'd find myself sitting there being like, how the hell is the implementation specialist or the onboarding specialist or the partner that's taking this over, or the CSM that's going to have to work with them one day, how are they going to understand exactly what was going on in my brain when I sold this to them? And then they go show up with the customer, and it's like, what did Max want you to do? Right. And it's like, it created a lot of these weird, like sort of disjointed things. So it's like, I love how you guys are taking an approach of like, hey, the ones that are like convincing you that this is the way and showing you there is a solution and it exists are the same people that are going to take it and turn it into reality versus just someone who's going to promise you a whole bunch of stuff. Right. I think that's a really, really interesting model. And that's tough. And I think that speaks to the awesome team that you've put together, right? That you've been able to find people who have this ability to not only to solution it, to sell it, to build it, to ship it, to make it real. Like that's a really rare thing. And I applaud you for that. I think that's really tough to do, especially in the age of like very scarce HubSpot talent. Like it is hard to find people just on the open market that know HubSpot, right? And have these other necessary skills you need to like fill these specific like roles and everything. But
no, thank you. I attribute a lot of that upskilling to Jen Nixon on my team. She is a community champion, absolute legend. I mean, she is unbelievable.
Legend in the game.
Yeah, absolute legend. And the dev blocks, which are the meetings that she runs, they've revolutionized a lot of our team members' skill sets in certain, industries, hubs. I mean, that's how we won the super pitch at Inbound, was we were collaborating to solve for a very specific use case as a team so that we could all learn together. And it was, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. When you develop good talent, you get to where you want to go. You get to that North Star goal.
It's good pudding.
Good pudding. Well, Chris, this has been love getting the window into the world. Thought I knew you, but I didn't. That means we got to get a lot harder, especially when I take my ass down to Houston. So I love to have 3 questions I ask before we kick people out of the room. Actually, you're at your house, so I'm pretty sure you got a baby back there crying for you. I know I got 2 waiting for something, some hugs. But
I got 2 having an absolute meltdown right now. So
yeah, exactly. It's the resonance. It's like hiccups and yawning. You hear one baby cry, it's gonna be baby crying, crying. So you get the game. But first thing, man, favorite food?
Hot chicken.
Dave's hot chicken or just anybody's hot chicken?
I love Dave's.
My hot chicken.
Ooh,
great answer. All right, what's the guilty pleasure?
Legend of Zelda.
Safe for work.
Legend of Zelda.
Which one?
Oh,
careful.
Caught him up, man. Yeah, he's just fronting because I got cartridges behind me.
Chris is like, am I going to be a happily partner after I answer this or not? Dax, why don't you ask me that question?
Eligible answers are linked to the past.
Dude, I was
eligible.
Sweating right now.
Game Boy version, also. Link's Awakening, huge. That's my favorite. Zelda is the Game Boy version. Link's Awakening.
Link's Awakening comes to mind, but I think it depends on my mood, right? Because if I'm feeling adventurous, I'm gonna go for a newer version. Like Breath of the Wild was a life-changing experience for me. Honestly, that was unbelievable. But yeah, Link to the Past, Majora's Mask is also like. Link's Awakening. Final answer.
I'll take it. Link's Awakening.
All right.
And most important tattoo, because I know you tatted up.
Oh
yes.
Most important. I got.
Most important. If you had to pick one.
Yeah, I got this. This here is the birth flowers of my 2 daughters and my wife.
Oh man,
that's what I'm talking about. This guy's got.
And then I've got Snorlax.
Oh, there he is.
Caught him.
Love it.
Super funny,
awesome,
man. Dude. This has been a pleasure. Would love to have you back in a future episode. Once you're elite and be like, hey, this is the new Chris, the elite Chris.
That's right.
There we go.
Right. What's the last thing you got to tell everybody? It's 2024. You got 1 sentence to live. People that want to be like you, be like us, be like everyone, be like themselves, the best version of themselves. How do they get there?
2024, grow better together and be happily.
Oof, this guy.
Hey, there we go.
Appreciate the love, man.
Can't say no to the plug. Yeah.
You can't say no to the plug. Always gonna love the plug. I'm Dax. This is Max. This has been Max. Happily. We're gonna do this again another day.
For sure.
We'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Thank you.